Everybody, it's Dr. Jeffrey Wise. It's kind of a fun topic today. You know, oftentimes, as many of you know, I have a fairly busy rhinoplasty or nose reshaping practice. We do hundreds, if not thousands, of rhinoplasties here at our facility. The fun thing about it is oftentimes people will come to us or come to me and say, hey, you know, I really like this celebrity and I want my nose to look just like this celebrity. And as many of you know, there's different types of noses, and there's different types of noses that look good on different types of individuals. There's so many things that determine beauty and what makes a pretty face. And clearly not every nose should be exactly the same. That's the last thing we want to do in my practice, is to make every nose exactly the same. We don't want some cookie cutter nose where everyone's nose looks like such and such a celebrity. So it's critically important that patients and we have a discussion. We talk about what works best for that person's individuality, their preference, their face, the various features of their face, what kind of fits contextually the best. So in this video, we're going to talk a bit about the different types of noses. We're going to give examples from various celebrities, and it's kind of a fun take. And next time you look at a celebrity, you can kind of say, oh, I know that kind of celebrity and what kind of nose they have. It's just so important to realize that, obviously the majority of these celebrities are considered beautiful, and there's so many different types of noses that are associated with beautiful faces. So something to keep in mind. This article, this discussion is actually pulled from a New Beauty article that came out recently about various types of noses, and I thought it was kind of a fun thing to talk about here. So let's get started. The first nose we're going to talk about is a very popular nose. It's called the upturned or celestial nose. When you think of this type of nose, we think of celebrities like Emma Stone. We think of Florence Pugh. We'll also sometimes think of a celebrity like Carey Mulligan. These are actresses that have kind of a little bit of a slope to their nose, and they have a kind of a relatively fine tip, and it's a little bit upturned. So when you think of an Emma Stone type of nose, that's like that celestial or upturned nose. The next nose that we're going to talk about is what we call the snub nose. The snub nose is very similar to the celestial or upturned nose, although this nose is not quite as pointy. It's got that beautiful slope to it. It's rather small, but it's got a little bit more what we call bulbosity or roundness in the tip, or like a snubby sort of look. When you think of this nose, think of the legendary Elizabeth Taylor. She has a beautiful nose, beautiful face, of course. More of what we call like the snub nose. Our next nose is what we consider a Roman nose, or otherwise referred to as an aquiline nose. And this is a nose that, think Gisele Bündchen or Meryl Streep. This nose is not what a lot of women come in for, or men come in for, as a traditional nose that they might even desire, but you can see how it could really work and make these women, eccentric and beautiful and strong looking. So this nose is described as one that has maybe a slight hump to it. It has a bit of a length to the nose, and oftentimes the tip, while relatively slender, can point down somewhat. So think Meryl Streep, think Gisele, and this is what we consider a Roman nose. The next nose is among one of the most famous noses of all time. This is what we consider the hawk nose. The hawk nose is it's not my term, but I think it sounds a little rude. But this is the nose as you would describe someone with a nose that looks a bit like a beak almost. Think Barbra Streisand. She's got like a very, very strong nose, has a bit of a hook to it, almost like the beak of a hawk. So that's why we get the term hawk nose. The next type of nose is what we can commonly refer to as a Mediterranean type nose. Think Jennifer Aniston. This nose is generally characterized by certainly not what we would consider a dorsal hump, not like what we consider like the hawk nose or the Roman nose. The bridge is relatively straight. But it's also not swooped like the upturned or celestial nose. So this is kind of a neutral dorsum, relatively straight, strong nose in general. As many of you may or may not know, it seems as though Jennifer Aniston had nasal surgery in the past, maybe even a few nasal surgeries, but she's preserved her original nose fairly well, just some minor refinements to it. But this is what we consider kind of that Mediterranean nose. The next nose that we think about when we think about celebrity noses, or broadly speaking, any type of nose, is a very desirable nose. If I had to guess, what people are looking for when they come to my practice to ask for a certain type of nose, they seem to really, really gravitate towards the button nose. And what is a button nose? For the button nose, think of Jenna Ortega, think of Scarlett Johansson. These are generally smaller noses with a very, very tiny rounded tip. The tip could go up a little bit, down a little bit, but these are kind of those cute noses, those button noses. They kind of resemble a button at the tip. Seem to be very, very desirable. Keeping in mind, by the way, that when we talk about celebrities, a lot of celebrities, as many of you know, have had rhinoplasty before. I'm quite sure, I don't usually comment about celebrities that much, it's just not really my thing. But for the context of this, I would say Scarlett Johansson probably had a small rhinoplasty in the past, at least what we consider a tip-plasty, where she made her tip a little narrower, a little more of that cute button nose that we were talking about. But button noses are very desirable, and people seem to really gravitate towards them. The next nose type that we think of when we think of celebrity noses or just noses in general is what we consider the bulbous nose. Bulbous noses are very, very common as presenting pre-ops. In my practice, people generally, especially women, desire a nose that's more slender in the tip and more refined. And unfortunately, because of some of their anatomy, they have what we consider lower lateral cartilages that are a little bit overdeveloped, and that creates a roundness or width to the tip of the nose called bulbosity. When we think of bulbous tips, think Cameron Diaz. She has a bit of a bulbous tip. She generally has a really nice shape to her nose, but her tip was a little bit wide. It's rumored that, and I could probably verify this, that she probably had some nasal tip refinement done at some point in her career, in her life. But this is a very, very common complaint that patients have when they present to me. They say, you know what, I really don't like my bulbous tip. I don't like my round tip. I want it more refined, more slender, a little more elegant. Next category of nose is what we consider the flat, wide nose. So what's a flat, wide nose? A flat, wide nose is someone who has issues with the width of their alar base. When we talk about an alar base, is basically the distance between the nostrils, the two nostrils. So these folks tend to have an alar base that's somewhat widened, and they also tend to have a bit of a flatter nasal tip. So there's not a lot of projection to the nose. Generally, the nose is a little bit flatter. Celebrities that come to mind, we think of celebrities like Oprah Winfrey. We think of Zendaya. Who else do we think of? We think of maybe a celebrity like Beyonce. These folks have slightly wider noses, slightly shortened nasal bridges. We consider them having what we consider a decrease in their what we call nasal projection. So the nose doesn't project far out. It's a little bit flat, a little bit wide. The last type of nose that we're going to talk about today is what we consider like the East Asian nose. Obviously, not one ethnicity is associated with every type of nose and vice versa, but it's broadly considered a nose that has maybe a slightly shorter radix. And what we mean by a radix is where the nose starts from. So oftentimes some East Asians may have a nose that starts a bit lower in the face and not quite as high, like the hawk nose and the other nose that we were talking about. It also is defined as relatively thin, but has a bit of a shorter nasal tip, and oftentimes has a slightly wider base as well. So that's what we consider like the East Asian nose. Think of Lucy Liu, think of maybe Brenda Song. These are obviously very, very attractive women who have this East Asian nose. So that's a long but not exhaustive list of various types of noses and their associated celebrities. I guess the point of all this is to say that, hey, these are all beautiful individuals and everyone has different types of noses. And the last thing that I want to do in my own practice is give everyone the same nose. That doesn't make sense, and that's not the way we do it here in the 2020s. So what we do when we have a consultation in my practice is we typically sit people down, we talk about their goals, kind of get to know them a little bit, and then we actually do three-dimensional Vectra imaging, and that gives us a really nice tool to have a conversation about what someone's aesthetic goals are. And in that time, I point out various features of their face, like the cheekbones, the projection of the glabella or the forehead, the chin projection, the width of the eyes as far as like how far the eyes are set apart. These are all things that inform us as to what nose would look good on that individual. So, it's a really an art, and we're excited to share it with you. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I did. And stay tuned. We like to do these kinds of videos. I think they're fun, and the feedback has been really, really positive. So enjoy, and hopefully I'll see you soon.